so I should not go beyond here. Alright, well, I'm Tyler Case. Thanks to Ab and everybody for allowing me to come here. I know this is something that's new, and I'm really happy to be presenting today. So, I want to start out just by talking a little bit about some of the mushrooms that are in the area here. I'm not sure if anybody is into mushrooms or hunts mushrooms, but just as an introduction, some of these things that we have available to us, and we're kind of at the tail end of the season now. All these things grow in this area. All the pictures, save for one, are from either collected them in Wissahickon or another part of Fairmount Park. So just an idea of what's around. So these are oyster mushrooms. You can, they're available in Whole Foods, a lot of stores. They taste a lot better when you collect them in the wild. And one of the other applications that's been discovered, Paul Stamets, he's a researcher, a mycologist from Washington State, and he determined one of his 30 patents shows that these mushrooms can be used to clean up oil spills in as little as 8 weeks, and it actually produces edible, huge mushrooms. So that's oyster mushrooms, and this is a morel. These are probably the choicest edible in this area. They go, when they are around, they're usually $50 or $60 a pound, and they're usually not so good. When you get them fresh, they're unbelievable. They're very good. These are lion's mate, also called pom-pom mushroom. The texture is a little bit like seafood, like lobster. The taste is very sweet, and it's actually been used to increase cognitive functioning and to remyelinate axons. So people that have MS or Lyme disease, it's a potential treatment for that. Although the FDA wouldn't let people say that. It's lion's mane. These are turkey tails, known best for their anti-cancer, antiviral properties. They grow everywhere. They're one of the most common mushrooms around, and they actually make chemotherapy more effective. And I think they're publishing some results on that and coming out with new treatments all the time. This is reishi. This is one variety of reishi that grows on hemlock. Here's another one that grows usually on oak. And this is number one thing in traditional Chinese medicine. Amazing effects on the immune system. It's actually an immunomodulator, as a lot of mushrooms are. And that means that if your immune system's weak and you're sick, it will boost it. If your immune system's too strong and you're having allergies, it'll actually lower it. So it kind of gives you a sense of the possibility of intelligence in these organisms. And this is chaga. It's kind of hard to see, it's very dark. This is the only one that wasn't collected in Philadelphia. This is from New Hampshire, and it's a conch, it's a crust fungus that grows on birch trees. That's where all the black comes from. It's actually picking up betulinic acid from the birch, and that's being used for different cancer treatments, and it actually makes it more bioavailable by the fungus processing it. And it's also the strongest food source, as far as I know, of antioxidants, 30 times stronger than blueberries and pomegranates. And it's actually really delicious. It tastes like maple syrup when you make a tea out of it. This is, I think, an assassin bug, and it's really hard to see, but you can kind of see some white in there. That's the mycelium, which is the main part of the fungus that's actually parasitizing this insect. And there isn't a fruit body, there's no mushroom, no spore-producing body on here to show, but this insect was mummified basically by a fungus. And although I don't know what species this is, it's really hard to determine just from that. Similar species in this genus that are collected in the Himalayas increase physical performance, stamina, ATP use, a lot of things, oxygen, the availability of oxygen in the blood. It's a really good pre-workout, although I'm not sure what this particular species would do. And then, of course, we have our psychoactive fungi. This is a fly agaric, an Amanita muscaria. I can go on and on about this if you're interested.
Really pretty.
Yeah, these are beautiful. Probably this might be the most beautiful mushroom I think I've ever collected. And psilocybe ovoidocystidiriata in Fairmount Park. Yeah, they are growing out there. And of course, poisonous stuff like the death cap, Amanita phalloides. A couple bites of that, and it'll be 3 days of hell, and then you die. Wow. So on that note, this is a chicken mushroom. This is a pretty tender specimen right here. This is growing on ash. It usually grows on oak. And this is kind of what I'm devoting my life to right now, is cultivating this mushroom. So it's not available commercially anywhere because it's very tricky to grow. You can get it to, let me go through some slides here. This is a different species. There's two different species. This one forms more of a rosette. This was from last weekend. There's a little bit of an older one.
This is not poisonous.
Not poisonous. It's in there. You're gonna need some. So,
Psychoactive. No, well,
not psychoactive, no. Delicious.
those are the ones.
Right. And as far as medical benefits, it actually has been shown to fight staph infection in vitro. So there are some potentials there, and they even sell like different burn salves. It's good for your skin, apparently. So it's not available commercially because it's very easy for the mycelium to grow. It's very easy to get the mycelium to grow through the substrate. Not so much to produce mushrooms for whatever reason, but there are 2 people internationally that have figured out how to do it. And one of the main limiting factors in the production seem to be the number of strains that you're working with. So just because a strain will produce a large amount in the wild does not mean that it's going to take to indoor conditions very well. And so the best bet is to collect as many different samples of the culture as you can. And that's what I've been doing all summer and fall, is sitting in front of my flow hood and carving out little sterile pieces of the tissue and putting it down on a petri dish, which looks like that. This is after a couple days, the mycelium grows out. And then what you do is take a scalpel and just section off a nice outward portion of the mycelium and put that in a test tube, and these become your master slants, and these you can store for long periods of time. It's almost impossible to see. You can see there's some color variability in the mycelium. Some is more white, some is more orange. In general, mycelium is more white. This species is unique in that it's orange. And the mushroom doesn't really smell like it, but the mycelium actually kind of has a butterscotch smell. It's really sweet, but not when it grows on agar for some reason. And so here's, after only about a month or so, that's a bag of sawdust that contains, I threw one of the petri dishes in that had the mycelium. It's spread throughout. The mycelium is so tenacious that it's actually climbing up the sides of the bag looking for more carbohydrates to break down. So originally, my method of cultivation, I was thinking of like what's the most environmentally, favorable way to grow these things, and actually harkens back to an old method that the Japanese used to grow shiitakes. I think, as far as I know, it might be the first like pseudo cultivation of a mushroom in the world. They would go out in the woods, and if they saw a tree that had shiitake mushrooms growing on it, or old shiitake mushrooms on it, or maybe there was a way of telling within the tree if the mycelium was present, they would take that tree back and basically just line it up in these stacks in a shady area and water it, and then during the normal growing season they would grow. So, kind of on a more modern scale, we have these giant tree yards around the area. This one's near King of Prussia. Basically, it's a place where all the arborists, all the landscapers in the area that have trees, they bring it here, they separate it out. Some of the trees that can be used for lumber, they start cutting up. Other ones are just kind of sit here and waste away. They'll grind them up into mulch, etc. And so in this stack, there's one tree it's really impossible to see with this the darkness here, but this is a pretty large oak tree that's fully colonized with chicken mushroom mycelium. And you can actually tell that without even the presence of the mushroom. You can look at it and see the way that the wood rots. It's a certain color, it has a certain smell, that the chicken mushroom mycelium is present.
So that was a wild, this is wild here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where that tree came from. It could have come from a park, it could have come from somebody's yard, who knows. But you can see that the rot is pretty progressive at this point, and probably the tree was knocked down in a storm, maybe over a road, something like that, and they pulled it in, ended up here. So, and a lot of these stacks, this is actually one of the smaller ones, so some have thousands of trees in them. So basically you can just walk through, say, I need that one, I need that one. So that was kind of like where I started out with this project. Basically what we would do is ask the tree guy to pull out the log, cut it up with a chainsaw, and then move it to a location and water it, and then same process, you would have mushrooms during the growing season. And this is a closer look at a different tree. You can see the mycelium coming through the cracks there. It's actually super strong. It forms these like mycelial highways, large networks of mycelium. And then from there it spreads out through the tree and produces digestive enzymes and stuff to break it down. Okay, so what I did was I went around to some different farms to see if anybody was interested in providing a place to put these logs. And so I went to Henry Got Crops as part of Weaver's Way Co-op in Roxborough on Henriette. Really great farm. I think it's about 2.5 acres or so. I don't think it's certified organic, but it's organic. And the farmer there was super interested, super busy, but super interested. And so she referred me to a teacher at the adjacent school. Saul High School for Agricultural Science is right across the street there. They work together. It's a really cool spot. The kids go over to the farm and they get to work in agriculture. They're out there like operating backhoes and tilling and doing all kinds of stuff. It's really a great place. This teacher, Miss McAtamney, is really great. She spreads herself too thin by getting her students involved in all kinds of things. So she invited me in to teach her AP Environmental Science class, junior year students mostly. So I started that last spring, was doing it every Friday, and then this year I'm doing it every other Friday. This is like the week after we went on a little mushroom hunt, and I made some soup, and the kids, I didn't think they would, but they were gobbling it up, pretty much all of them. Wild mushrooms. So this is from a few weeks ago. We went on a little mushroom hunt. It's definitely the most fun thing that we do, and the kids don't mind doing it on Friday. These are some honey mushrooms. Probably the most well-known parasite. If you ever see like this black root-like structure around the forest and wonder what it was, like growing over bogs, that's the super aggressive honey mushroom mycelium that can cover many square miles. There's a few specimens there's one in Oregon, one in Michigan, and they're basically all over. But you can actually see them from space. They're so gigantic, and it's technically only one cell wall thick, because that's what mycelium is. So it's devouring everything in its path. You might think that that's a negative thing, which it definitely is for your yard or for if you have an arboretum or something like that. But it's actually essential to an unbroken forest because it provides a meadow, a place where grass-eating animals can come, and, predators can hang out, that type of thing. So there's a honey mushrooms. They're pretty good. Made some soup out of that. Is a student picking a maitake, a little hen of the woods mushroom. Very good and very good for you. They're out there right now. And this is a Stropharia rugosa annulata. Big beefy mushroom. You can actually get very big. Let me see if I have any more slides of it. Yeah, so these are just babies and they're like that big, and they can get more than a foot, even in some cases 2 feet across. And so what we did, this is a project we started last year. I found these in Fairmount Park, and you can see it's growing in straw. And the straw has a whitish tone to it, and that's the mycelium that's consuming the straw and producing the mushrooms. So I gathered some of that stuff up, took it to the classroom, and we put it down on some wet cardboard. And then that grew out for a week or two, and then we went to the farm. These are rows of broccoli, and we made a little tunnel, made a little canal to put the substrate. We mixed it in, put some layers of straw, etc. And what this does, this mushroom has been found to boost crop yields of certain crops. So if you mix it in the soil, and it's actually conducive to no-till farming, and unfortunately they tilled it, not remembering that the stuff was there. But you don't need to till the soil, and after a while, it tunnels through the soil. It holds in oxygen. It holds in water. Fungus are more related to animals, so they actually exhale carbon dioxide, so it's providing carbon dioxide in a microclimate for the crops, and it also makes nutrients more available to the plants. And so with mushrooms like this, and then also mycorrhizal fungi, which penetrate into the roots of certain plants, actually 90% of plants have symbiotic relationship with fungi, you can increase crop yields by up to 600%. And you end up with some really good mushrooms as well. So here's some more pictures of that. There's some mycelium in the straw a couple weeks later. And actually, I just got a text from the farmer a couple days ago that the first mushroom grew this year, even though they tilled it, so it's pretty amazing. So what I'm working on now is, first of all, we're trying to raise money to put a lab in the school. We need about $5,000 for a large flow hood, a pressure cooker, various other stuff, so that we can really do everything that we need to do that a normal functioning mushroom farm would do. And the kids can work in there in the class. And also raising money, or actually I just recently got an investor who's going to help me out to build a grow room. And what it's going to be is probably something like this. I have to work out the design. So this is somebody somewhere out west, and he dug into this hill and buried a shipping container, sealed it off, made it super water resistant because it's holding in humidity. So it's definitely, if you didn't seal it in, it's going to rot or rust away in a couple years. So you bury it, and the reason you do that is that insulation is a huge cost for these things. You know, to run an air conditioner in the summer and a heater in the winter would just be outrageous. So we're hoping to do it, you know, with as minimal energy as possible. The farm's already interested in getting solar panels in, so it looks like that's how we're going to power it. And it shouldn't take too much energy, actually. The growing room environment is usually like between 60 and 70 degrees, pretty moderate temperature any time of year. And so you bury a shipping container, and he actually made it look kind of nice. He put some local rocks there out front in a little doorway. And there's actually, I believe, 3 sets of doors. And basically you go in and you strip down, and it's super clean inside, and you have like many different little, you know, what do they call them, decontamination chambers or something like that you have to pass through to get to the grow room. And basically, like I said, it's a small indoor environment, but you can produce, you know, if you're using the whole thing to grow, you can produce as much as a couple thousand pounds a month of mushrooms there. He's actually using a majority of this for incubation, but that doesn't require humidity, and we have the school, so we should be able to use an interior room in the school and just incubate in there and then move everything over into the grow room. And so my main focus is on the chicken mushrooms and developing a way to grow these indoors. I've spoken to the 2 guys overseas that have done it successfully before. I have some clues from them. I have more strains than either of them started with, just from going around in the woods. And so we can begin experimenting as soon as we have this facility together. I can do it on a smaller scale first, but I'm gonna wait until we have the whole thing going. And it looks like the money is there now, so we're gonna be able to grow this thing. And hopefully produce chicken mushrooms and other gourmet edibles from sawdust and other materials like that. My dream is to open a food truck. Maybe we could put it out front here. And just so we can sell the produce ourselves. You know, we don't have to sell it wholesale as much. And then just keep working with the school, keep working with the farm, keep working with the city, and just show that this can be done, it can be lucrative, it can pull a lot of people in, and it can be repeated anywhere. So, yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
And on chicken mushroom.
Do you, I have to imagine that you come up against a lot of people who have preconceived notions about mushrooms and fungi, and,
Right.
and I mean, people tend to be grossed out by this sort of thing. I mean, the way that you speak of it, it's like they're just nature's like best thing
Yeah.
ever, and no one's paying attention to it.
Right. I haven't come up against that much resistance. I mean, I would say as far as the students go, like, you know, I've worked with maybe 40 students now, and maybe 5 didn't want to eat the soup.
Yeah.
And I know a couple of them just don't like soup. So it wasn't that they were anti-mushroom. The others, there's certain cultures that are pro-mushroom and certain cultures that are anti-mushroom. And even between cultures that are pro-mushroom, they tend to prefer different mushrooms. Like porcini is grown in Japan, they don't pick them. Whereas in you know, Italy, they're one of the most sought-after mushrooms that grow there.
Yeah.
And so people sometimes are grossed out. Oh, are these magic mushrooms? Oh, I thought they were all poisonous. I think some people don't understand there's different species of mushrooms.
Yeah.
I find a lot. But it's changing. You know, there's this one researcher, mycologist Paul Stamets, has done a lot of good in that department. Just so many applications. I would love to talk about them, but it's going to take a lot of time. But you should check out his video, 6 Ways Mushrooms Will Save the World. It's a TED Talk. It's really good. It's really fast. You might want to watch it a couple times. But he's doing his part, and then, you know, it used to be 20 years ago you would see button mushrooms, and then 10 years ago you might see like a portobello burger. By the way, don't eat those because they contain carcinogens. If you buy mushrooms from the store, get oyster or shiitake, they're really good for you. And so they're more available. There's a lot more research on the medicinal value of these mushrooms, and I really just scratched the surface with that. So I think it's kind of entering the public sphere a little bit more in this country. It's a good time to be working on something like this.
A good field guide or whatever, so I've got 3 acres of trees and mushrooms all over the place. But as far as I understand, they will kill me.
Right,
So
that's a good assumption.
So, I mean, how do I kind of get started to figure out
Well,
what I should?
It's a little trickier than like birds. When I was little, I used to like be into identifying birds. And there's a book, and a bluebird looks like a bluebird. You have like an immature one and a female and a male. But mushrooms, there's so much variability depending on the strain and also like what they're growing in, what the environmental factors are. So it's very tricky. And then also genetically, they're just so variable that they're constantly reclassifying things. And then there's also a lot of mushrooms that 10% of people get sick, 90% of them think is delicious. So you know, nothing is so. There's definitely like a good number of mushrooms that are pretty easy to identify, such as this, that you can start with, that are good. But in general, it's also good to just eat a little bit the first time, because there could be allergies and stuff. But as far as field guides, the Audubon Guide by Gary Linkoff is good. That's where I started. And then there's ones that are a little bit more specific to the region. So there's ones like Boletes of the Northeast, and there's like, it's still a really thick book. So if you're particularly interested in one genus or class of mushroom, you can buy a book that's kind of devoted to that, and then get books that are devoted to the region. But there's a lot of information online too, and I'll give you my card. If you see anything, take a picture of it, send it to me, and I'll give you my